Is that it? Filled that
Other
one?
request.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I think this is list of everybody who.
A list of attendees.
All right. Okay. We're trying to get better.
Not loving it, but we'll see how it works.
All right, are you good then?
Good as I can be.
All right, then I guess we are gonna call this meeting to order and first pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That'll be fun for you all night, huh? All right. Okay, so do we have any I have some adjustments to the agenda, but does anyone else have adjustments to the agenda? No? Okay, so the adjustment that I have is, I'm gonna put 40.2 till next meeting. With Darla being gone, that is something she wanted to be involved in. And I don't want to, move forward with that item until she's back. So that's the transparency goals for December. We'll table that until next meeting. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, 240.2.
So the first,
Oh, the first one.
sorry, typo.
The first one, the transparency one. The other one will continue. So are you guys all good with this change?
Yes.
All right.
I move we can make this change on the current agenda today.
All right. Second,
Second,
perfect. All in favor? Aye. All right. Jeremy forgets to vote because he's typing while we're talking about this. All right, so consent calendar, approve October minutes. Did you guys get a chance to look through this book that Jeremy wrote?
I wrote a book.
Well, it's 3 pages. I'm teasing you. I like the detail for sure.
which one is it?
It's the minutes from last month.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it's 2 sets of minutes really, because we had a working session, so that's why it's so much.
Yeah,
So
no, that's very, very good, very detailed. I do
you
appreciate.
felt like you were here, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, does anyone have any changes to the minutes?
I'll move that we accept the minutes from last month as is.
I second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great.
Can I take those so I can put them in the file?
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. You know, in fact, those are the ones you gave me when I met you
Yeah,
on our
yeah,
meeting,
but I
and
mean,
then-
like, I don't
I'm
wanna
just
have to
laughing.
print
I
off
know,
another.
I'm just laughing because they're coming full circle. All right, fundraising calendar, Lori.
Okay, I have passed around the minutes of our fundraising meeting that we had Friday. Now, for the record, it had been 5 months of a break with my leave of absence. So this was a first gathering. We had a very good group. Everybody pitching in to help flesh out where we were, what we're doing, and who's doing what next, what our goals are. I guess, to call it a calendar, I wouldn't call it a calendar quite yet.
Okay.
We do plan to do a summer carnival next summer. That was something we had on our calendar for this past summer, and we found that we need a lot of lead time, so that work will begin now. And there were a list of other ideas that we're working on, as well as I'd like to update you on the idea of forming a 501c3, a nonprofit standalone foundation that raises, the purpose will be to raise money for the pool improvements. The bylaws are being put together. We know our steps. The cost to do it, is not so bad if we do a lot of the work ourselves. Peggy Snyder, who's on our committee now, has offered to be expedient to put up the cost herself. Now, Molalla Pool here in Oregon is another one of the aquatic districts, special district in Oregon, one of 3, I believe, in the state. There's us, Molalla, and somebody else, I don't remember. But Molalla does fundraise through a 501c3 organization themselves. They began it about 6 or 7 years ago, and they did a lot of the work themselves. The cost, there are associated costs with doing it, was roughly at that time $500. And each member of the committee at that time split the cost evenly. Everybody shared to get it going. Now, that's kind of the feeling we had in our meeting. But just to get right to the point, we do have somebody willing to donate from the committee to begin the work for a reimbursement when we are able to raise funds for our legal work. For the costs associated with creating this. We do have interest in serving on this new board for the foundation. We have motivated people. We believe that it's important to create the foundation so that it is long lasting, with the single purpose to help raise money for pool improvements. And in the long term, we hope one day to see us build a brand new pool. We're kind of, as you know, we're busting at the seams with this one. And we're a little nervous as a big group about the age of this pool. It is an old lady now, and she's starting to show her wear and tear, as you all know. So, let me just look at my notes. I think I've covered most of the overall thing. We are going to meet again shortly and work together to continue fleshing out what we can do immediately, what we can do within the next short few months, you know, sooner and later than that. We want to keep the ideas and the events and the fundraisers going. And in the meantime, we'll work on that foundation, and we all feel pretty good about this.
That's great. I know Darla was really disappointed that she missed.
She's a member that we miss too. But everybody that's been contributing has really helped move it. So there we have it.
Well, I'm great. I think that's great that you are back and you're so committed and so ready to pick it up, and you have a great group of people to work with you. So you're not
Thank
just
you.
doing it all yourself. So that's really impressive. You're doing a great job. All right, follow up from the work session. Oh, I guess we can scratch that because we didn't have the work session tonight. All right. So moving on to new business. And I don't know much about this. Darla asked me to add it. She said you and her
Yeah.
had some conversation, so I'm excited to hear about new programming ideas.
So I have a couple copies. If you guys wanna pass those around. Sure. Okay. Chris, you wanna? Anyways, I can stand too, like, and this is like not that good a rendering, but, and it's very one-dimensional. So basically, these are inflatables. And so this, basically this little square rectangle one right there is a slide. And then this kind of round thing is like a, it's round and you can climb on it, okay? And then these square pieces in between are like the transition step pieces. And then this thing here, this long thing, it is like things that you run across on. So it's almost like those, if you ever watch that American Ninja show, where they're like jumping on those like pylon things, and then if they miss, they'll fall into the water or whatever. It's like that, okay? So these are super fun.
They're going to deep end.
Well, so now this Zulu thing, this slide, it's about the width of this table, maybe not quite, but it's pretty good size. And then it goes out. And so that can be a standalone thing. And so, and if you look at the next page, where it gives you what depths you need to have it in. And so for instance, the Zulu, you got to put in about 6 feet of water, just slightly over. So if you think of like, we could put that on the wall, like on the north wall, just past the, into the deep end. So that could be a standalone thing. And then we could, daisy chain all those other things kind of down the deep end. Now, the only thing with this inflatable stuff is then we wouldn't be able to probably use the diving board, or we wouldn't be able to use our rope swing. Unless we put maybe just one of that balancing thing, that's called the IHOP. We could secure that out in like the kind of where the shallow end and the deep end kind of meet. Like we could kind of secure that by itself, then we could still use the deep end thing, but basically it gives us options. Because right now, all we have is our diving board and the rope swing, and then of course, basketball in the shallow end and the warm pool. But, a lot of pools, like Lori already mentioned, but they have inflatables. And they started out where they just bought like 1 or 2, and then every year they would buy another one and buy another one, because these things are not cheap.
No.
And, so then they just kept adding to their selection, and I think now they have like 9 or 10 of these pieces. And so what they do is they will set them up at a separate time, and then they charge a completely separate rate. And, because it's an attraction. And then, so they'll have like a Saturday night rec swim, and then they charge a different rate, and then they leave them set up. And then on Sunday, then they have rentals, like for birthday parties and such. And then they take them down and store them until the next weekend, because again, these things are big, right? Because think about having like 3 or 4 adults climbing on one of these things at one time, right? And they take a fair amount of time to deploy and blow up, they're inflated. And then, you gotta secure them and hook them all up, how you're gonna do it. And then to take them out, you can't just throw them out on the deck and then, pull the plug and walk out. I mean, you have to dry them, and otherwise they're gonna mold, and, then they'll rip and they won't last very long. And again, these things are huge, expensive pieces of equipment. So there's quite a bit of training involved with, putting them out and then just storing them. And then when you store them, it's kind of like maps, right? They're never gonna fold up and look as nice and as put together, like a tent even, right? So, they're gonna come and they're gonna be like 3-4 feet tall and maybe, 5-6 feet. And so then the other question is, well, where are we gonna store these things? Because, you know, for those of you guys that use the pool, we don't have a lot of space and we certainly don't have a lot of deck space. And so then Jim and I have been like racking our brains about like, well, you know, where could we put this stuff? Because again, you don't want people messing with it or kids climbing on it when you're not using it. And, so we've come up with some ideas, about possibly, you know, where we would do that. Now, the Malala pool, they have a nice Conex, you know, one of those big like rail cart, you know, storage things that they have outside. Well, of course, you know, they have quite a few of these. Now, we could probably get by with storing, if we went with this whole option of storing the pieces on deck, you know, tucked away in a corner. I think we could get by with that, but then eventually we might wanna replace the shed out back. That the swim team uses, which it's falling apart anyways. And so then Jim and I were discussing, well, if we bought a nicer shed that wasn't leaking and falling apart. That was big enough, then we could store some of those pieces out there and then the swim club could have stuff, you know, for their stuff. Too, so my idea was that. So these first two pieces, the Zulu and the swim step. Because again, the Zulu thing, even though it's a standalone piece, the slide, like you really do want to have the transition piece. So you put the step thing, which is just really like a platform that you can stand on, and then you would then get on that to go down the slide. And so that is on sale right now, the step and the Zulu piece. And I think Joe, do you know when the sale expires?
End of December.
That's what I thought, into December. So then, of course, the price is gonna go up. So my thought was, if you look at the next page, our capital piece of our budget. We spent $2,227 and change on our paint that we painted the whirlpool with. And, you know, when we guessed at what we were gonna need, you know, we figured at 3,500, so we are under budget on that. And then if we can push off the bleacher maintenance project till the following year. Then we could use some of this money that we haven't spent in the capital. So right now, year to date, we have $20,772.60 in our capital budget. So we could spend the 13,000 and change and get these inflatables.
How much does Malala charge or whatever?
So Malala, again, like the way that Malala does this, and I would figure that we would do something very similar. Is they treat this like an attraction, and so a lot of their normal recreation kind of rules. They have different rules for these inflatable swims. So they let little kids with life jackets go out in the deep end. They don't have their safety line. I know Christina's giving me the look. Okay. Christina, it's okay. Okay. I got you. Okay. Anyway, so with parent, I mean, it's not like you're just gonna toss a life jacket on a 4-year-old and be like, go out there, have at it. No, with a parent right there, they're letting little kids go in the deep end and climb on this stuff. And they have lifeguards per each one of these pieces too. So you're gonna have increased staff. And she's like, you know, we haven't had a problem, like it's worked out really well. And again, that's not the norm for our normal rec swims. But so they charge $13 for youth, and that's 0 to 17. And then adults are $15. And that's the price for, I think it's like a 2-hour inflatable swim. And then, of course, you can rent them for parties.
Yeah.
Which we have.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, these are super fun, and we did a real neck down, like, version of this during high school swimming last year for a team building thing. One of the kids had one of these giant, like, I don't even know what it was just this giant thing that they blew up. It kind of looked like a big chair, And they just threw it out in the middle of the pool. We turned off all the lights, we threw a bunch of glow sticks out there. And then we watched Jaws on the wall, which I was the only one that watched Jaws. Cause you couldn't hardly hear it, and they were just like knocking themselves off and pushing themselves off this thing, and they had a blast. It was so fun, and of course we had guards and everything. It was safe, but it was a lot of fun. So, and that was just a cheap, like down and dirty way of doing that, but, anyways, this would be super cool. So
Yeah.
now we could, the other thing is this Zulu piece was on back order last I heard.
Oh.
It's not available till after the first of the year. And then, like I said, there's training involved. Not just on tearing down and putting it back up, but also on my staff, because just like with Christina, they're like, wait, what? Like little kids out in the deep end, are you crazy? So, yeah, so I'm gonna have to, train my staff, so it's not, even if these things showed up Friday, we wouldn't be able to have one of these swims for a while yet, because again, like I ain't doing anything half cocked. So anyways, so we could even wait, until maybe next month to make the real decision.
How
I'm,
big is the sale? I mean, how much money, are these the sale prices?
those are, well,
Man,
yeah, where it says like Lincoln Falls special, like these two pieces are discounted,
But we don't know,
so.
what's
we don't know how
regular?
much. Laura,
No.
that's what she's asking, what's the regular price?
I don't
I'm
know.
curious.
I-
Like if we miss the sale, is it $200 extra we'd have to
Well,
pay, versus 1,000?
My guess is it would probably be more than $200.
Yeah,
And then the other option too is we could always just get like one of the pieces and a transition piece. And say, you know what, let's just do this less, but I mean, we have the money, I mean,
Yeah.
so.
no, I
I'm-
like this idea.
I'm kind of like, let's do it, and then, I could really conceivably see us getting ready to put this on, like, say, in February, or, because then it gives us time to get the stuff, train the staff, figure out where we're gonna do it.
Mhm. Are we open during spring break?
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
could be really.
We
fun.
usually are, unless we replace boilers.
Right. So that could be, but that could be really fun. A
Yeah.
fun thing it's still too cold outside, but it would be an obstacle course
Yeah,
type thing for the kids to
yeah, and
do.
we would advertise, and get the word out, and so.
I like the idea.
And
Or.
she does, because some point she'll want to use it as a fundraiser.
Well, why not?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's good, and we have the money and there's a sale going on, so.
You guys are awfully quiet. Thoughts?
That's a fun thought, yeah, I'm thinking,
I do like the idea. I've got a couple of thoughts on it. Last year we did spend more money than we brought in. This year we're on track to do that as well. Which is unfortunately not the right direction. However, this seems like the direction we want to go in terms of improvements and stuff like that. Since we've got a month left, I would personally like to hear Darla's thoughts on it, because I feel like this is her area of specialty in the stuff that she's been digging into.
Right.
But unless she can bring up something really negative, I really like the idea.
And I actually think that you and Darla already talked about this, right?
Oh, yeah, like
Yeah.
she's,
You know
You
what?
brought it up. Darla brought it up, so
Darla brought it up?
I think she she brought up the idea to Laura Lee, who had already been thinking about it herself, and so they had a conversation about this very specific thing. So Darla's very much in favor of this.
All right, well, if Darla's on board, then I don't see any reason to wait for it. I mean, it is going to hit us negatively. You mentioned that we've got the money. I would argue that point. However, we can't afford it. It seems like the direction we want to go. We're gonna be more negative this year in terms of income versus outflow than,
But this might help
But
turn that
we'll-
around.
but long term,
This
this might be,
could, yeah, this
might
could
help
help
us
turn
out.
it around.
right. So, yeah,
I have no problem with this financially or any other way, so I'm all for it.
Neither do I. I know that our budget balances every year, and I'm comfortable. Do you need a vote on this for this amount of?
I mean,
We should.
you
Yeah,
can
we
make a.
Do you wanna do the
make
whole
a-
thing or just go parts at a time?
No, let's do it.
I'd like to
Well,
move.
do we get a
do
better
the
rate
whole
if we buy the
thing.
whole thing?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean,
well, the bigger
we'll
question is if we do the whole thing, you mentioned storage issues.
we'll figure it out.
I'm sure people love hearing that.
Okay, well, I mean, so we might need to buy a new outbuilding to put behind the sliding doors.
Yeah,
So that's another expense.
right.
So do we need to research that first?
No, no, cause I can expense that toward maintenance or something.
And worst case, she leaves some of it bundled up in a block that she can store easily. And takes out one piece that has to be manhandled, right?
Yeah,
Afterwards.
we can figure it out.
Well. I'd like to make a motion to move forward with purchasing the whole roofs. Doing it now while there is a sale. Who knows when the next one will be?
Right.
And I like spending less than the list price, whatever it is.
So what do we call this project? The inflatables?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I'll second the motion to purchase the equipment.
Jeremy will second the motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed? There's no one else. We all said aye.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
How fun, right?
The staff gets to try it first. Oh, yeah, yeah.
You can
Lucky.
practice saving
Yeah,
each
train
other. All right,
we already have life jackets, so the whole supply, see a whole supply
Yeah.
of life jackets.
Yeah, those old, like 40-year-old orange ones aren't gonna cut it. So, We might have to tell
Our
parents to bring
fundraiser
life
committee has discussed, raising money through the sale of life jackets so that we can. Well, no, the sponsorship, I said that wrong, everybody, sponsorship of life jackets to donate to the pool. Or use out.
Yeah, do we want people that have outside life jackets to bring them in? I don't know if that makes a difference.
we
Like if they're-
let parents do that now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like they're out soaking in the lake and they've got a little rip in it, do they want to bring their,
Well,
so-
that's what chlorine is for.
okay. Okay,
well,
good.
and maybe since, like the holidays right now, well, I don't know how easy it is to get life jackets. I was just thinking that you see a lot of leave a new or unwrapped toy. Well, we could have a drive, a life
Yeah.
jacket drive here at the pool. Bring a life jacket, a new or unwrapped life jacket.
That's a way. Well, thank you, but
It's just a comment on Zoom saying that, I don't know if that meant, if it meant Darla or Dala, if there's space at the Holiday House for storage, so maybe on offsite.
Oh, that's
storage.
Dollar. Yeah, Dollar.
good,
So,
thank you.
all right. All right, Jeremy, emergency documents. He's making his notes before he talks.
No, I wanted to report that, 'cause that was a good suggestion from Zoom.
Yeah,
All right, so, Kim mentioned something during our last working session here about having an emergency document where basically all functions of the pool are centralized in some manner, which seems like a good idea. Most of the companies I work for have something like this, where each portion of the company has their own set of what's called an emergency document, or they have various names for it. It comes down to a list of all the important passwords, the ways of doing certain things like managing our pump systems, locations of important meters or switches around the pool. It seems like a really good idea to me. So each one of you guys have this. It's a list I put together fairly quickly of what I thought would be the most critical items around here. And if we were to move forward, then I assume Laura Lee would be able to flesh this out much better. Laura Lee did mention that at the moment, most of this information is in her head and in her employees' heads.
I would think there's at least 4 people in the building that have all this information.
All right. What I would like to do is take the information out of people's heads and put it in a backup document that goes in Laura Lee's safe. Just as a standard thing, like every other business out there does.
I'd like to introduce a statement on this matter. It's a statement that, I had some input from Mark. And I have it printed, but I'd like to read it into the record if I may. I think it will help us all make a decision. Is that all right?
Yep,
May
yeah.
I?
You said you had copies,
I
so
do.
maybe Jeremy could have one, so just
Sure.
type it all right while you're
Oh,
talking.
yes.
That way you can listen to what you're saying.
Here we go.
Instead of,
Does anybody else?
By reading the record, are you hoping to have these in the following board minutes?
Oh. It's up to Jeremy.
If we need it in the board minutes, I suggest we give Lori a digital copy, she can copy and paste
Oh,
them.
I have it,
Okay.
I have it.
This is a statement from, I give Mark credit and me. The purpose is that we believe that the proposal for emergency plans coming before the board today is not supported by our LAD board policy duties and responsibilities. Additionally, Oregon revised statutes caution against allowing a board member or board members, I should say, to engage in a potential conflict of interest. From the key points, according to ORS 244.020 called definitions, and number 13, potential conflict of interest means any action or any decision or recommendation by a person acting in capacity as a public official, the effect of which could be to the private pecuniary benefit or detriment of the person or the person's relative. That is a definition of conflict of interest. Then from our board policy manual, section 5, administration, and 5.1, the delegation says administrative authority for the daily operations of the district and the management of all district personnel shall be delegated to the district manager to the extent reasonably possible. No individual board member may direct or order a staff member on any matter that relates to the daily operations or administrative activities of the district unless expressly authorized by the board, unless we do that. Section 6 from the board, from the manual of the ethics session, 6.2a is about potential conflict of interest that exists when a decision being deliberated by the board could result in financial gain or avoidance of financial loss to board member. In summary, we firmly believe that board members should not have access to any sensitive info. Doing so becomes a potential conflict of interest. All district operations and management of all personnel are the responsibility of the aquatics director, including setting up contingencies for emergencies. Pool maintenance and equipment operation in a public pool in Oregon can only be carried out by a certified pool operator. Therefore, handling this type of equipment is prohibited unless properly certified. Again, this falls under the purview of the aquatics director and her staff and not a board member. In conclusion, we believe that the best oversight for the pool's emergency plans is for the board to affirm with the aquatics director that pool emergency plans are currently in place. If not, the board will direct her to do so. And so,
And I'm confident that it already is in place.
Actually, it's not,
Yeah.
or Lee already stated, it's not.
It
Problem.
Can you-
it is
Okay,
absolutely all.
So-
place.
if Laura Lee didn't come back tomorrow, we would be responsible for making sure the pool ran. And if we don't have,
It's not.
no, it is true.
No,
no.
It is true. We are the board of
But-
directors of the pool.
It's not.
No.
The person she put responsible is the responsible party. everything has a contingency from what I understand.
So,
And we don't need to add to the individual things to know. Those things, go ahead, sorry.
well, I just. So if I died to right now, okay? Jim knows where a lot of this information is, as he should, as he's a pool operator. And then right now, Rose is stepping in and helping out on the administrative side on a lot of things. Because I have staff member who's currently unavailable. And so she knows the rest of the stuff. And then it's just like if I'm gone or something and not reachable, my staff, my lead guards, they know what to do. They know where to find the information. I mean, if I die, then absolutely the staff that I have employed under me know what to do, where to go, where to look for the information. Like as a board, your guys' job is to oversee policy and to hire an executive director who then like knows the information. And then the people that need to know various levels of information, they have access to that information. Does everybody need to know every single thing? No. I mean, this
I
is
should
so
add, the people
outside
that
the,
need to know are equipped to know what to do.
I
Just put this on a list, including like, the, email, username and password. There's a lot of sensitive information in the admin that does not belong, it muddies up where that line is for the board. It's.
Well, I see this as a fair request, but I also see that it's already taken care of.
We didn't ask her to
Yeah.
hand us this information. We asked to know that it was somewhere all together in a secure location
Oh,
that someone could get to if they needed.
Yeah,
the,
Very
the
good.
staff that need to get to it can get to it. But again, like, I mean, first of all, I can't just have all this sensitive information locked up in the safe because we deposit our daily monies every night in the safe. And my lead guards are doing that, okay? Do my lead guards have access to access the cameras so they can look back and spy on other people? No, absolutely not, for good reason. And there's only 2 people in this facility that can get in and look at a camera and look back at a history of something. That's myself or Jen, okay? That's it. Does any other staff know how to do that? No. I mean, no. I mean, they shouldn't have access to that. I mean,
maybe what I'm seeing here is, so for some reason you and Jim are both out for a month, then who takes care of the cameras?
well, it would fall to Jill,
Okay.
my programs administrator. She actually has access, but
Okay,
right
well,
now she's.
That's, I mean, in my mind, since I'm here almost every day, I
one of the parties
I see
being
what's
named is
happening.
raising his hand too.
If something went wrong, I have the list of contacts, cameras, security, electrical, mechanical, if something went wrong with the heat. NCC is right there. If something went wrong with the blowers, country air right there. Electrical, Dusty Ray. Phone number. Call those people, they have access because they set it up.
yeah,
Put that all in one spot to put username, passwords. Yeah, that's just setting myself up for, if somebody was to come in and all they have to do is push one wrong button. I would be chasing my tail for days and this pool would be shut down.
yeah, so it's a fair request, but in my confidence is in the staff 100%, so.
And I think it's a fair request as checking to see, do you have a handle on it? The district director and your staff and so in my opinion, we're checking through this now, but it was also my powerful opinion, especially reading what I've just read, that the board members, who, by the way, have terms of 4 years and then move on. And so it perpetuates with a lot of people knowing things they don't need to know. And it's best that they don't then. It keeps us clean,
So Lori,
transparent,
again, we weren't asking for this information to be given to all of us individually.
or an individual. I'm against an individual having it.
Laura Lee
Well, I
has it.
haven't.
An individual board member, nor all of the board members. I oppose any board member or members having all this
Yeah,
information.
I don't think that
That's
this
my
information
point.
wasn't meant for us. It's just a request to make sure if something happens. And,
And everything is secure.
yeah, and I have full confidence
Everybody
that it
who
is.
needs to know, knows.
So if you're gone for a month, the pool will continue to run. If you and
Yeah,
Jim are
I've
gone for
been
a
gone
month,
before.
the pool will continue to run.
Yes.
Part of that language is what really I have trouble with. You're using a very, you're using language saying everybody knows, it's all in the human brain, which I have a problem with. He was talking about having a
No,
list
we
that's written
does,
down,
we do.
Why do you
We
keep
do.
saying that it's only in the brain?
because that's the impression that I'm getting from the terminology. being
Why
used.
don't you ask straight up? Because
I
she said it several
have,
times.
I have things written down in secure locations.
Okay,
Like,
so you have this entire list written down,
I have it in various places.
We have mechanical things,
I
we
have-
have, income or finance things. We have camera things.
I don't think we have to
various.
individualize, but I'm satisfied with our situation. And this is definitely a fair request and. But how do we move forward? Are you okay with the system we have? Or what
I
changes?
think that it's not worth discussing, I don't think I'm getting anything any further tonight, it's something I need to think on further and come back with clearer thoughts on it. It does sound like we've got a lot of it already done.
Right.
It's more transparency to the board, like, so the board can be confident certain things do exist.
And it gives us a chance to let Darla read Mark and Lori's note and give her input also into the conversation.
Jim had a question.
I have a statement besides her username and password. I can give you all of this right now.
Okay,
As long as we know that you know where it is, right? It's not about you giving it to us.
It's-
It's about us knowing it exists.
It
and
does
where it is,
exist.
Where it is.
So, I agree. As far as most of these, if the boiler goes out, I have not only how to do it, I have pictures of where it's located. And what
beautiful, I
button
love
to
that.
put.
And maybe a rewrite of this document would be better saying,
Yes.
titles, people's names and titles, the people who control these areas. So if something goes wrong with the camera system, we call you.
Right. Because this was just a starter
or-
for a
or-
conversation, right? It
Or
wasn't the
they
final.
contact That's cameras. And you call
Exactly.
that person.
Right, so
Which is all right
we
there.
know who's responsible for the various areas. Would probably be a better way of formatting the
Right.
document.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
all right.
And
so-
where it comes to usernames and passwords. Board should not have that at all. Do we
Reasonable.
agree? That was
Well,
your point?
Okay, but just to add some clarification. Jill Smith is my programs administrator. And her and I are the only two people that can hire and fire and conduct personnel related issues. Okay? And so she knows the login password for my computer, and I know the login password for her computer. But nobody else in this facility knows that information. Because I have sensitive personnel matters and issues on my computer. So obviously, I don't want just anybody to be able to get into my computer. So some of this information is very sensitive that, I'm sorry, but the board members shouldn't know. Like if I have to have some kind of, personnel talk to somebody, you guys shouldn't know that. Nobody should know that. If I'm doing my job right. And certainly if I end up terminating somebody, which I've had to in my years, fortunately not very often, but again, like there is sensitive personnel information that is locked up and is secured. And nobody should be able to just get in there and see that stuff.
Okay, I'm satisfied with the conversation to this point. I'm ready to move on.
So Jeremy, you wanna,
Thank you
Re-
for taking my statement
Yeah.
too and work into that.
okay. So Jeremy, you're gonna rewrite the document in a different format. We're gonna let Darla see what
Yeah,
Mark
bring it
and,
back for more discussion.
and Lori put together and, okay, and then, okay, that's
Wait,
great.
wait a minute, Lori and,
Mark wrote the document,
Oh.
right? I want Darla to get a chance to
I can
review that.
send you a copy of it. Digitally. If you like.
yeah, if you want the document in the notes. Lori already says she's got a copy, or she can copy and paste it in there.
Okay. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is oral requests, but I have two people, Zelda and I think Mary, right, who said they wanted to talk about 70.1 and Laura Lee hasn't gone over that yet. So, are you guys okay waiting till where it says remarks from the director and then after she gives that report, having the conversation? Okay, great. So I just wanted to make sure that would work for you guys. All right, and Mary Cook just left, or she didn't go too far. She doesn't have a jacket. It's freezing cold outside. All right, so Rose,
Yes.
you wanted to talk about transparency, but we tabled that one. Do you want to wait till next month?
Oh, yeah, because it's not about what's on there.
Oh, it's not? Okay, so
Yeah.
something else. Okay, absolutely.
So I'm just concerned, I mean, it does pertain to the discussion that just had. I'm very concerned about the actions of some of the board because there's seeming to be a lot of micromanagement of the day-to-day activities of the pool, which is why the board hires a director. And that the board's job is to serve as a steward for this community's only pool, which some people only have access to exercise in the water because they have no physical, they don't have the physical capabilities to exercise on dry land, and the board is to expand the pool. And so when the board is focused on these day-to-day issues, the question then becomes, why? What is the purpose of trying to micromanage, do what you've already hired somebody to do? And so I'm just asking, like right now, I mean, you guys ran on a ticket of mismanagement of the pool. And just in the last year and a half, I have seen expenses coming from the board. I have seen, well, attempts to micromanage, like, of course, people know what to do and where to find this information. Of course, we know that information because it's our job to know the information and the proper people to know the proper information. So if you're looking for mismanagement and that was your ticket, like, what is the purpose here? Why are you guys on the board and why are you guys engaged in these activities? You talked about transparency and there's all this guarded actions and guarded language. It's kind of disturbing.
I can take that one if you like.
Oh, I was gonna actually thank her for her comments and just end the conversation. We don't have to reply to the questions, but we can take the comments. So
We can be,
we can talk about that
we can.
in a
continue to be
different,
working. Okay, fair enough.
in a different, okay. So that's what, thank you, Rose. Mary, you want to talk about fundraising?
Hi, I'm Mary. Let's see, let me think. Well, first of all, Lori mentioned that the pool is an old lady. And I think the pool originated in 1965, which is the year I was born.
And I was thinking 67, which is the year I was born, so I think she just totally
She didn't
stepped on
mean it.
everyone's
He
toes.
didn't mean it. No, okay, so, no, I'm not. Well, yeah, first of all, fundraising should be top priority.
Yep.
And I don't understand what all this, brouhaha about passwords and emails and resolutions and la-di-da, and it seems like a big waste of time. And you could put this down in the secretary point of view there, Jeremy, if you want.
I'm sorry, I'm slow here, what's your
Are
name?
you, Mary? Mary,
I know I've seen you many, many times and I still can't get it right.
no.
He doesn't even get my name right every time, so.
No, and that's all, that's really all I wanted to say was that basically, it seems like there's been a lot of, discussion about things that don't really matter to me personally. All I really care about is that pool, getting back on board, so I can swim in it, so I can soak in it. I mean, cause I have issues. I have, shoulders, shoulders that have been replaced, knees that are being replaced. So the warm water pool is very important to me. And I know my lady friends here love the aqua jogging and, people who like, to swim for health. That's a good reason why to be here. And, but these other things, resolutions from 2005, that's like almost 25 years ago. Who cares? I don't.
So
care.
all resolutions,
Uh-huh.
unless they're replaced, are active. So
Okay.
as board members, we should
Uh-huh.
know what the resolutions are, and if we don't know what the active resolutions are, that's not okay.
Oh.
We're supposed to be following the resolutions, so we need to know what they are.
Laura Lee knows what they are.
But it's related to the board, not to what she does.
Where do you place that in terms of importance to what Mary brought
Are they
up?
in a book somewhere? I mean, written down somewhere?
Yeah.
Do they have to be digital for some reason? Yes. I don't understand. I'm not real high tech. I'm a dinosaur. I don't really care. But I can read a book. I know how to read a book. So, and I know they're written somewhere, but in any case, resolutions, emails, I don't really think that's important for other people to know about. And then, passwords. Or knowing where boiler keys are, or things that don't really matter to anybody. I don't care about it. All I care about is swimming in the pool. And if none of this happens, and then if we don't get to the fundraising business, then we won't have a pool. And then nobody in Lebanon will get to swim. And I don't care about, I care about people swimming. That's all I care about.
All right, thank you so much.
So I'm just hearing about these things in the meetings. That's all I hear about.
Yeah,
Last
see,
year.
we're 60+ years here. Osborne made it 44 years and they're shut down.
Huh?
Osborne, they're shut down after 44 years.
See, I just hear about these things here in these meetings, I don't know what's going on. All I know is I go to these meetings every month. I hear about these things, and it sounds to me like just weird stuff, that doesn't really matter to me. All that matters to me is getting that pool, that $1 million. I'm on the fundraising committee here. I do my best. I'm gonna, we made $14,000. I mean, maybe it wasn't the most amount of money that we could have made, but it was pretty good,
Yeah.
But that's closer and closer to $1 million. We need $1 million or more.
Mhm.
How much do we need? Anyway.
Thank you, thank you. Robert, you want to talk about board goals?
Yeah, so I have a thing I'll read here and then I'll give it to Jeremy. So my name is Robert Waterhouse. I live at 412 East Ash Street, Lebanon. I've been swimming laps in Lebanon for 24 years. I was present at the last board meeting and working session on October 21st. And I have some observations I would like to communicate to the board and have them entered into the minutes. First, regarding the work session on board goals. I was disappointed that the goals did not include any detail on what was meant by the words to ensure the long-term success of the aquatic district. This statement to me is meaningless without some definition of the term success. Where I worked at NTech, we had measurements, we had goals, we had, key points that we would try to achieve, and they were all measurable. So does this success mean that the effective management of the many programmed activities, such as lap swim, aquatic exercise, swim team, swim club, open swim, high school PE, lifeguard training, and open recreational swim? It's a lot, right? Does success mean planning for and securing funding for the pool expansion project? Now kind of the pool improvement project. A definition of success is necessary for evaluating whether a proposed action actually contributes to success. So second, regarding the specific actions discussed under the board goals. I didn't hear any justification of how the proposed activities would contribute to long-term success. Many of the items discussed have the appearance of busy work or micromanagement. For example, putting all current policies on the website. How does that contribute to the long-term success of the aquatic industry? Or listing all the pool's vendors, contractors. How does that contribute to success? Board approved list of maintenance items to be reviewed quarterly. Do you really want to spend valuable board time every 3 months going over Jim's rather lengthy list? He's got quite a book of maintenance items and activities. How does that contribute to the success of the aquatic district? In my mind, the role of the board should be strategic planning and oversight, while Laura Lee is responsible for daily operations. Lastly, and this is kind of repetitive, the board needs to have a well-defined strategic vision for the Lebanon Aquatic District. And that vision needs to be communicated clearly to the public. At present, the board's vision is absent, obscure, or worse, hidden. It's time for some real transparency from the board, the Lebanon Aquatic District.
Thank you for your. Chris,
Thank you, Robert.
I would like to do this, comment
Oh.
after 7.
okay. All right, we can do that. All right, that is, and you need these. Minutes. All right. So, Jeremy, treasurer report this month?
Yeah, so I don't have any graphs this month. I'm in contact with Tina to get a couple more numbers. I think we'll make them a little clearer. The general idea is pulling information out of the report that Laura Lee already shares to us to make it easier for us to see the expenses versus the income. And then I also want to add our existing bank account balance every month on there. Just so that we as a board can have a high level snapshot view very fast of how things are going. So I've got most of it done. I did talk with Tina a couple of times to make sure that my numbers looks good. And I've requested a couple years back from her because it's a lot easier for a board to do comparisons in your head. So I didn't want to just say, well, here's where we are. This looks terrible. Well, no, this looks similar. Point in time to every year. Now, Laura Lee does say that in her presentations every month, but for me especially, looking at specific numbers without the pretty charts is very, very difficult for me to consume. So this will simply make it easier, I believe, for us to consume the information.
So you'll have more next,
I hope to
more
have,
detailed report
yes.
next month.
I hope to have,
I mean, this is the first time, so,
yes.
okay.
That seems a lot of busy work and cost to have Tina do extra things. When we do have comparisons to a year ago or the same month that we had a year ago, year to date, where we are against the budget, we have those numbers. We have the figures of the bank account balances split out and listed.
Yes, we do.
So putting it in a different format and putting it out, how does that illustrate better financial information?
Most people, when they present financial information, they present it in graph and chart form. That's pretty standard.
I don't think so. Most people in business do financial statements. This is what they look like. And in government, this is the way. So I find it too much to put this on our bookkeeper to come back to create a new way to look at what we already
Well, the
have.
good news is I'm not. This is work I'm all doing myself. I've only requested data dumps from her. So all she does is press an export button and give me the data. All the
Well,
rest of the work I'm doing myself.
I'm sure that like reading your emails and stuff like that, still, she's gonna charge us for that.
And if it's for your benefit, why is the board behind it? You're the treasurer, so I think that because you're treasurer and what you just reported concerns me. I don't support the idea to reconfigure any of these financial statements. They're very thorough, they're very informative, and they're not that hard to follow.
Okay, can you tell me right now, have we spent more money this year or have we taken in more money this year, fiscal year?
I can tell you right now that we're operating within the budget that was adopted back in June.
Okay, so it
That's
sounds
what
like,
I can tell you, and I'm reassured of it, because I've been on this board now 12 years, and I have followed it, and I've seen the growth of the pool. I'm very happy seeing financially how this pool is doing. Now, whether I can name whatever figure you want to throw out, doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is how things look in our reports. Comparisons to the year before, where we stand as far as our budget. We don't want to go over budget, and we're not allowed to go over budget. We've known that forever. It's part of our rules of self-government. So knowing that we've always come in with a budget balanced, we've not overspent our budget. That's what I will say. And I'm just a little astonished that we're even doing it in this time and talking about, except I think we ought to clear this up some way. It just seems superfluous. And I use the term seems very kindly. It is superfluous. That's my take.
Thank you, Lori.
Sure.
I wish, this is a reason we need to have this conversation, I think, with Darla here, because there was some stuff in her training about board oversight and why not having a treasurer previously was a problem, and showed how we
have one
weren't.
now.
Exactly, and we're just figuring it out. He just last month, he's been the treasurer for 1 month. So we gotta give it a little bit of time to
And a
figure
little
out
bit of
exactly.
feedback.
Yes,
There's
absolutely.
my feedback.
I agree. I
Good
agree.
Points to consider,
Yes.
and I don't think I'm alone.
Okay. So Laura Lee, would you like to give your report?
Well, I mean, I think I'd like to start out by, I mean, I don't want to put words in Jeremy's mouth, but I think, Jeremy, you should explain to them what, I mean, so Jeremy doesn't like the fact that the pool doesn't make enough money to sustain ourselves with our income that we get from our program revenue. Is that a true statement?
all but the last part. If we're focused on program revenue, there's no way we could sustain ourselves.
Right, but so, right, and see, Jeremy likes to throw out phrases like, well, we're deficit spending. Because in his mind, and again, please correct me, okay, I don't want to speak for you, but I think that you should clarify to the audience what your main point is.
My main concern is that I believe that regardless of the budget, our inflow versus outflow each year, we are spending more than we are bringing in each year. That doesn't mean that we have to break the budget. The budget's a bunch of numbers. But the inflow into our bank accounts is less than the outflow for the last 2 years. At least that's what I believe.
But even though we've carried over a cash carryover from the previous year, see, I know Jeremy and I have had this discussion before. He doesn't like the fact that if we have extra money or that we get more money than we think we're gonna get in, he wants us to save that and not use it.
It's a profit.
Correct.
And so, but see, but in your normal, right, in our normal personal budgets, if you got more money or your bills were less, what should you do with that? Oh, let's run down or let's Amazon shop, right? No, we're supposed to save that, right? Because that's what being, whatever, good savers are.
Good steward.
Okay, and so, so Jeremy does like to throw around that word a lot, that we're deficit spending. Okay, so to come up with data that shows like, oh my gosh, like the pool doesn't bring in enough money to pay for all this stuff that's going out. That's exactly why the people of this district voted us in almost 25 years ago now. Like, we cannot do this without that tax base. And for districts who can't, like, say they need to build a new pool, which we do probably at some point, what's the vehicle that we use to do big expenditures that we don't have in our coffers, right? We go out for bond funding. Okay, that's pretty common. Okay. Now, Jeremy, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but he's very against bond funding. Okay. And I get it. I'm a taxpayer too, right? I don't want to see my taxes go up all the time. But that's kind of the vehicle that we have for building and for capital improvements. Okay. Now, when districts or cities or local governments start looking down, and forecasting in the future, and they're like, you know what? Our uptick in property tax value or revenue is really not, it's not matching our outflow in, say, cost of labor, right? Because again, cost of labor, those things are mandated to us. If the governor decides that we're gonna raise the minimum wage, then everything goes up. Or, oh, let's have a new tax, like that gas tax now, or not gas tax, what is that? That thing that came into existence here a couple years ago, some kind of, anyways. So again, taxes, right? PERS decides like, oh, we're gonna increase what you have to start holding back now. Okay, so many of this stuff is outside of our control, right? Well, again, especially local governments, if you're looking down the road and you're seeing that, you know what, we're gonna outpace what we're probably gonna get in, what vehicle do we have? What recourse? We could go out for a levy, okay? That's again, pretty standard, operational levies. They're for your personnel or for operational costs, not your capital costs. And those things then get revoted on like every 4 years, or I think 4 years is a pretty common time frame for levies. Okay, so it doesn't mean that the pool is financially destitute. It doesn't mean that for 25 years now, we've done a horrible job. I mean, no, I think in a way, Jeremy is kind of proving that point that, if our inflows are not staying up with our outgoes, then as a district, we have options. We could go after some operational levies at some point. And I've said this before in other public meetings. Like, are we at that point to need to go out for a levy right now? No, not even close. I mean, I don't see that as a need next year either, but 5 years, maybe 10 years, possibly. Is that the end of the world? No, it's a common vehicle that local governments have. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of, I just feel a lot of times that, I mean, if we're gonna all be on the same page, we need to be on the same page.
Also, I'd like to add that the expenses to run this pool are the expenses that are needed to run this pool. You can't change that. Are you gonna cut personnel? Does that mean less lifeguards? Then we gotta close it during blocks of time. if you're only gonna cut down some of the staff. So that's a no-go. You can't cut back on chemicals, you can't cut back on the maintenance, on the repairs, what have you. It's pretty straightforward, and in fact, with Laura Lee's management, she saves money every time she turns around. She's very capable at this. So I too am, or I should say, I'll speak independently. I have struggled with this idea that keeps being brought in the public meeting that the pool is not financially sound and that we need some reconfiguring of numbers to prove that. I know it's pointless. It's here. And I know what's being done here day to day at the pool. I'm here often. And other people are here daily and they need this pool and they feel powerful about it. Well, I feel powerful about it too. And I will say one thing. I learned today that there's a rumor about that tonight's meeting point was about closing the pool. Where did that come from? I've heard it suggested that we could save $500,000 if we close the pool for a year. That's been said in a public meeting, in one of our meetings. I'm mortified.
Wait, you're
Because-
saying someone said that in our meeting?
Yes, I am.
Can you-
Yes, I am.
What meeting was that? You know,
No, I can't tell you right now which meeting that was.
okay.
It was spoken by Jeremy.
It was a fundraising
And
meeting last year.
it struck me.
Oh, it was a fundraising meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I believe that was in reference to the comment of what was one of the big negative effects, what happens if we do run out of money?
our
So-
fundraising minutes are public information.
Well, it was a
So,
reasonable comment.
My point about it is that there is no way that any of us are going to support any kind of backpedaling on the pool, on reducing the services, cutting the staff, or closing on purpose. You can't save 500,000 by closing for a year because you can't just close the door on a pool and come back 1 year later. It needs maintenance, and for maintenance, it needs personnel, it needs chemicals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It can't shut down. You can't turn the heaters off. It's gotta be heated. Or we're in trouble.
Well, just-
Okay, that's
I
my
just
2
wanted-
cents.
My little input on this is, it's going and it's, obviously, I've been here 5 years now and it's still going. I've been swimming here for the past 12 years. I swam here in 1969 to 1980 also. But after a 32-year break, I came back. But if we start cutting corners, what's that gonna point to the staff? Oh, we gotta start cutting corners. And we have a perfect record here at the Lebanon Pool. With water, there's always the potential of drowning. We've never had a drowning. And once you start cutting things, then I just don't want to go that way. We just keep moving like we're moving. And in my opinion, it's moving along just fine. And we have a happy, healthy environment. So,
You're here.
Laura, let me present something else to you. What if, in building these graphs, I can build a projection saying, all right, this is how much money we need. And that projection long-term can support the case for that bond that you want.
How about if you just
do a regular report?
Yeah, suppose I tell you that we do sit down a very large group in May and June. And we figure out, we get a report, an expert report on what are the potential expenditures and income for the coming year, and that is our budget. And then all along, we can see where we are on that. So I don't see the report, a report that you talk about that helps to support a bond measure. I am talking bond measure, frequently for getting our pool fixed or a new pool. We're not ready, this town, for a new pool and asking big
wanna-
money.
Yeah,
Well, what Jeremy just said is he's working on trying to become that expert for us. So I mean, I see where he's coming from.
I'll try.
So
Expert.
Just thought I should.
the Lebanon Community Pool.
I'm gonna pull it back and then if you could just at least touch high points. Okay, you guys, we have to move on.
Yeah.
Laura Lee needs to give her
I-
report. And so she's gonna go very high level right now because of how much time we have and we still have. She still has 3 other things and then we still have people in the audience who have comments, so.
Yeah, so, okay, so just real quick. We did get some property tax money last Friday, so, and we'll probably get more this Friday, and so, cause November, Christmas comes early, so that's nice. And, also, I'm looking at our general fund profit and loss. And it's this guy right here, if anybody, I only have a couple copies, but basically, our lesson revenue for October was 3,400 and change. And you're gonna see that basically go away for the next 2 months because we can't really offer much lessons in November and December because of staffing and of course the holidays. So, you know, when you see that figure, you know, drop like a rock, that's planned. And then also our total program revenue for October was just under 17,000. And if we were able to do that for the next 8 months, because we've
That's
gone
good.
4 months into the fiscal year, we would be on track to surpass our program revenue, which our goal is 200,000, and so we'd probably come in like 210, if not more. So that's good news.
Just a quick question, with the inflatables, would that count as program revenue or would that count as some other kind of?
Well,
miscellaneous
once we
revenue?
start, no, I mean,
It'll
once
be a
we,
program.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm
it
just
would be
curious.
under rec swim or whatever.
Okay,
Okay, and so then, so those are kind of the things I wanted to touch on the income side, and now on the maintenance side, well, on the expense side. Building maintenance, we've only spent $8,300 and change so far, and we budget 38,000, so that's good. I mean, the fact that, you know, we haven't had a huge bunch of things fall apart like early on in the fiscal year. So we still have a healthy balance there. And then the other things that I really keep track on is our PERS contribution. Because, you know, it keeps going up. And we're on a biennium of PERS, which actually for January, it is gonna go up more. Which is probably why I budgeted that we would probably spend 104,000 this year in PERS. But we're under budget. So if we spent the same amount every month that we spent for the first 4 months, if we were able to do that, then we're gonna be around, say, 87,000, 88,000 of actuals rather than the 104,000 that I budgeted. So that's, you know, somewhat good news. And then the other thing that I really keep track on is the part-time temporary. Because that is basically everybody who is not full-time, which there's only 3 full-time staff at this pool, myself and 2 others. And so then everybody else is part-time temp, okay? Well, the janitors, we kind of single out the janitors, but, so the janitorial piece, they're fine, like we're under budget. But for my part-time temporary, we're under budget, and if we keep doing what we've been doing for the next 8 months, then I think we'll be within about $7,000 of our personnel budget, which last year, incidentally, we hit it, like, it was just barely 6,000, which that's the closest we've ever got, which that always makes me a little nervous, but anyway, so that's the good news as far as we're under budget on some of those bigger items that, you know, if you're not watching, can get away. And then as far as the balance sheet, you know, our balances look good. We still have, healthy amount in our LGIP, which is a separate Oregon, the local government pool, investment pool. And so we didn't need to spend as much of that at the end of the fiscal year, which is good. And so now, like I said, we're already getting property tax revenue, so that's what I wanted to say on the financials. And then the proposed holiday schedule, I would like to propose, I mean, we're closed on Thanksgiving Day, obviously. And then I would propose that we close on Tuesday, the Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day, so close Tuesday and Wednesday. And then, of course, we're open Monday, and we're open, you know, Thursday and Friday. And then on January 1, we're gonna close that day, but we're planning some special rec swims. We have a Black Friday rec swim. I don't know if anybody's seen our flyers out floating around, but we have a Black Friday rec swim. We also have a, we're gonna do an eve of Christmas Eve rec swim, and it's gonna be like elf themed. So we're gonna, all the guards, they don't know this yet. My guards aren't in here yet, but, we're gonna get some elf ears and make them all wear elf ears. So,
We all have to come.
yeah. So we're gonna do some fun things like that, and then we're gonna, yeah, and New Year's Eve, we'll of course have a New Year's Eve swim and stuff like that. So that would be my proposal for the holiday schedule. And then also, the thing that I'm super excited to talk to you about is, staff recognition and emergency preparedness response. So now, you know, my guards, like, they will do these random little saves like all day long, all the time, right? Like, for instance, if they're teaching lessons, I'm gonna use you for example. Like, we're teaching lessons and a little kid like slips off the wall and you're like, oh, okay, and you just kind of, you know, grab them by the, you know, they're doing that kind of stuff all the time, right? Well, fortunately, we're not having to do the big stuff, you know, like the big rescues very often, okay? Well, just recently I had two. One happened on a Friday afternoon, and I got a text from two of my staff, and they were like, hey, we're really sorry, but we weren't able to clock off when we were supposed to clock off. We had a patron, had a mental emergency, physical emergency rather, and we stayed with her and we helped her get home. We stayed with her. We actually stayed with her at the hospital. And so, you know, and they're asking me, you know, should we put this on our timesheet or were we just being good humans? And I'm like, no, absolutely put this on your timesheet. Are you kidding me? And so anyways, well, the woman came into the pool yesterday and brought cookies, and she had a thank you card for my two staff. And then she had a thank you card that she specifically asked me, would you please read this for the board? And so I'm gonna read you this, okay. Dear LCP, recently I experienced a medical emergency while swimming, and two of your lifeguards, Kara and Abby, saved the day. Their quick thinking, compassion, and professionalism kept me safe during a frightening time. They stayed with me for hours, making sure I got home and to the emergency room safely. I couldn't have managed without their help. LCP is fortunate to have dedicated, skilled, and caring individuals on their team. And I mean, as a director, like, this is why we do what we do, people. This is why, you know, in talking about or listening to Robert's question about like, how do you measure success? Like, as a board, this better be one way we measure success. You know, as much as transparency is important, and I am a big believer in that. I mean, I've been in public service for 19 years, okay? I love public service. And I take this role very seriously, and at times probably too personally. But I mean, this is why I get up in the morning. This is why I work. This is why I do this job. It's a labor of love. And to, you know, to see somebody come in on the other side of that, which by the way, she had surgery and everything as a result of that, that day. And she was looking great, and she's like, 5 more weeks and I can get back in the water.
Wow.
And so that was awesome. Well, okay, now that happened on a Friday. Okay, well, that very next Saturday, I was actually out hunting with my son. He took me rifle hunting. And so I didn't have my phone on, right? And so I didn't get the text message until like much later. But my phone, there was a text message from a staff member, and it was basically like, hey, Lorley, I'm just letting you know that during Saturday morning lap swim, there was a medical emergency. Now, I have to be careful because I'm not gonna give details or much names or anything like that, but there was a significant medical emergency that took place in the pool. And my guards just reacted like they were trained. They took care of the person, but the kicker was one of my other staff members was here lap swimming. And when she saw this whole thing go down, she immediately jumped in, even though she's not really on the clock. And so the 3 of them just like took care of the person, they extricated the individual, like everything was great. And so then when I finally get the text message, it was like an hour after the fact. And I'm like, is everything okay? Do I need to come down there? Like, give me a status update, right? And she was like, oh no, everything's fine. Like, they did great. Like, your guards did great. And then she asked me, hey, can I put that on my time sheet? And I'm like, yes, of course you can put that on your time sheet. Like, don't even ask. And so then, okay, so this was Saturday morning. Well, Sunday afternoon, I got a text message from a patron, and they were like, hey, I didn't know if you knew this, but I was down there and this event took place, and I was so impressed. Like, your guards did such a good job, and they totally took care of this person. And I just wanted you to know. And it was just like, wow, awesome. Well, then Monday morning, I'm at my desk working away, and a guy comes up to the window, and he's paying because he's gonna come to noon lap or whatever. And he's like talking to Rose, and he's like, hey, I was here on Saturday, and XYZ happened, and wow, it was so impressive to see those guards just immediately go in, and they backboarded the thing, just all the stuff. And so he's trying to tell us like how great our staff did. And of course, I'm like, all, listening. And so again, like, that I don't want us to have more medical emergencies. I mean, but man, it's just,
That's fantastic.
yeah, it was fantastic.
neat.
And so I wanted to share that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Good job.
yes, so, well, and it's my staff, you guys. I mean,
Absolutely.
Well, that's for
They're-
your staff. Yeah.
they're amazing. And, okay, so then I'm gonna move on to the maintenance. So, one really nice thing is that, Jim, well, I think mostly from the pandemic, like, that was a good time to like, develop a lot of these books and operational procedures and get everything documented. I mean, because, we had a lot of downtime. And so, and Jim's pretty good with Excel, so that helps. And so, he had all of this stuff. And so at the last work session, when the board mentioned about like, well, is there PM schedules, what's going on with all the mechanics and the equipment? And I, inside, I'm just kind of laughing because I'm like, oh man, all I'm gonna do is come in and say, hey, Jim, I need XYZ. And he's gonna be like, "Doop, there you go. I just emailed it to you." And so he has a daily checklist of things that he does every day. And it's not just him. I mean, it's myself, it's my staff, because like, I mean, everything about our jobs here it's all so much procedure, right? It's training, it's in servicing, it's doing the same things all the time. And so everything is trained, and there's a procedure for everything, trust me, and there's a way to document everything. And so, when my staff are doing their bottom checks, or my staff go into the locker room, if they see something, then, maybe this morning it was fine, but now, the suit dryer is hanging off the wall, or it's crooked, or it's not working, they're letting us know like quickly. So there's the daily checklist of stuff, and then there's the monthly preventative maintenance stuff. And as we get new pieces of equipment or new things, or we replace things, then we, you know, take out the old and put the new one in. And so you can see monthly, we have stuff. And then, you know, like under September, there's a few things, the first like 3 or 4 items don't have dates. Because those are things that we do during our closure, and they might happen or they might not, like replacing the sand filter, we tend to only do that about every 5 to 10 years. So that's why it just, you know, that's why we put down there, like, see if we need it or whatever. And then, of course, I have this facility status update. And, you know, that basically Jim and I just kind of like looked at the different areas of the facility and we're like, okay, what's wrong with this? What do we need? What's broken? What would we like to replace? And so that's, you know, we kind of just broke it down into, you know, like things that we need. And you guys that use the pool every day, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir right now. Like, you guys know the floors are disgusting. There's not enough showers. There's no adequate heat in the family changing room. It smells in there. Okay, because the floors are disgusting. I mean, you guys know all this stuff. The toilets, right? You gotta flush the toilets 3 and 4 times. And some of this stuff, it's like, the line is so clogged up and so deteriorated after, you know, 60 years of running water through it, that's part of the problem. And no amount of, you know, roto-rootering or whatever fixes that. So, yeah, so anyways.
This is a
These
great
are
list.
great.
This is very nice,
I love it.
very nice.
One of my favorite things.
And I love this list.
And then
of-
I have one more thing, I added it real quick, but, so, Rose has been a huge help, with the website especially, and so, and I know that, you know, the resolutions and documents and things have been an issue. And so I don't know if anybody's been to the website today, but all of there's about a dozen current resolutions that are up on the website right now. And then the LAD formation documents that were stamped by the county back in December. That thing right there, that is on the website. You can click on it and read it to your heart's content. And then below all that, it says archived documents, and then it says coming soon. So, you know, we've got a bunch of stuff already up there, and now that and it looks nice, I gotta say, like, it's ordered, and I'm big on symmetry, and it looks super nice and it's clear. But the other thing too, I don't know, nobody's really mentioned this, but the websites need to be ADA compliant. Okay, and the state enacted some laws, and of course the feds enacted some laws, and because we're a smaller district, we actually have until April 26, 2025 or 2026.
2027.
Oh, 2027. Okay, so we got a little bit of time. Okay, but just like with anything, you know, deadlines come faster than you want. And so you can go to this website and you can do a check my website, and it'll scan your website, and then it'll give you a score on how ADA compliant your website is. And we both figured, it's a good thing we didn't bet. I figured that we get a 35 out of 100. Okay, because 100 is like, your website's great, like, no problem. And I think she thought we'd get like 50. Well, we scored a 78. Okay.
Nice.
So yeah, her and I were like, whoa, dang.
It's still failing score.
Yes, to be clear, it's still failing. Okay, the time is ticking, right? Okay, so her and I went through a webinar that Special Districts put on here a week ago. And then of course she's been huge on this. And well, I'm sure you guys don't wanna, but basically, WCAG, it's the acronym WCAG, okay? And that is the ultimate deadline and the people we gotta answer to. And now there's plenty of districts that are like, well, we'll just take our chances on, you know, what's the chance we'll get sued? Well, we don't want to test that, okay? But the thing is, so once you have stuff on the website, like all the documents we have there now, most of them are gonna be really hard to remediate to make them ADA compliant. So what we do in that case is we put them in a archive folder, okay? But once we get the process down and the template, then all of everything we put online is gonna be in this new template, and that's ADA compliant. It basically, somebody uses a screen reader, right, and it reads to them like everything that's on the screen. Well, if you have a lot of like crazy colorations or like a bunch of disjointed stuff, then they have trouble reading that with the ADA compliance piece. And then like pictures, like we have to put up there and it'll say like swimmer swimming with a kickboard or whatever. It'll give them a visual, I mean, it'll say it, you know, what, so anyways, and so then we looked at some websites, like I've got a shout out to the Lebanon Fire District. Okay, their website is ADA compliant. It's awesome. Like they have a lot of white background with like lettering. It's not confusing. It's very, and then they have a whole page dedicated to the ADA part. And so, I mean, you know, I mean, I hear you. I know we want to get all this stuff up for transparency, but I think we really need to be thoughtful about how we're doing it so that we don't just throw all this stuff up there. And then, oh yeah, now we have this whole ADA compliancy piece that now we got to try and figure out. And it's very complicated and very time consuming. I will say that. So anyways.
I appreciate that you're that you guys are looking at it and understand that there are compliance things like the ADA stuff that has to also happen. So thank you
Yeah.
for getting that
Yeah.
started.
Yep, so that's the update on the website.
Okay,
Thank you, Rose.
so that
Okay.
takes all of the 70 numbers, except this will probably be for when we work on next month's agenda, because clearly we are going long today. I was wondering if there's an update from the gentleman with the quote.
No. No,
Okay.
I emailed them, but I'm still waiting to hear. back.
Okay, so hopefully we'll have some
I'm
information back
sure
on
we
that
will
next
for
month.
next month.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's do a little quick side note to the 3 people who still want to have some time to give a statement, and we will do that real quick, and then we can see if the directors have any marks. So Mary, did I say it right? Okay, perfect.
Not everybody does. so
Well,
thank
and
you.
I wasn't sure because it looked like it had a C at the end, and I'm like, does it say Meredith? But
No.
I just gave it a shot.
And it works. So one of the reasons that I'm here, and thank you for your report, because it makes it a lot easier to understand, is because I'm one of those people who heard that one of the things that this board was going to do is close the pool. And so it really doesn't matter, you know, playing telephone, who said it and
Right.
how, but we're here almost every day, 365 days a year. And it's very important that this pool continues. And if what we need to do is more fundraising and be more out in the public, then I'm all for anything that it takes to do that. And sort of like Lori, I feel like splitting people's time to doing something that isn't important for fundraising and making sure that this pool continues is something that is less important than it is in keeping this pool up and going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
Mary.
so just to not reply to anything you said necessarily, but I had never heard about the pool closing as a conversation the board was having ever. So, I mean, that sounds like something someone put on the buzz in a comment that nobody knew what they were talking about. Because we sit here every month and no one on this board has ever said anything that I've heard about the pool closing. So I just want to put that out there as a comment from me. So, all right.
I will say it was, again, I want to point out, it had been said was recorded and in those minutes that was public. But also, there's just been a lot of concern with people about what is going on. And just simply the fact that there is a rumor floating around is alarming. And so I think we should be, move forward with all of our efforts and our records that don't scare anybody to think that we are in imminent closure.
Right, and that's why we're squashing that rumor right now. There is no conversation about that happening, so. All right, Zelda.
Well, I worked for the school district and I retired a couple years ago. And the pool is very important to my mental health of coming in here. And the reason why I'm here mostly is because I want to know, when you signed up to be a member of the board, why did you do that? Why did you want to be on the board for the Pool of Lebanon?
If you go back to the July 2023 minutes, you'll find everyone's answer to that question from the election. It was the first meeting that we had and we all gave those answers.
Okay, and then the other thing is, how do you want to change it to make it better? So if you're on the board, what can you do as a person for this community? Because I look at it for, our kids don't have nothing in this town
Right.
other than this pool, nothing.
I agree with you.
You have to make this pool work. Skateboard park. There's people that don't, these kids, I worked for the
Oh.
school district for 20 years. I worked for the school district for 20 years. These kids don't even know Albany exists. You can't close this pool. You have to figure out how and what you want to do to make this pool work.
And that's what we
Don't fight
all
against
want.
each other. Don't fight against it. Laura Lee does a beautiful job. She does a beautiful job for this pool. You will never find another person so dedicated to this pool. There ain't nobody sitting in this room that will do her job like she does. And for the price that she does it for. Do you know she's here early in the morning? I get here at 6:30 in the morning. That lady is here. I come here late at night. She's here. There is nobody in this community that will work at this pool like this lady will, and that gentleman right over there. So with that, I think you should stop getting on her case all the time and let her do the job she wants to do. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, Chris.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Zelda, HDEN, Zelda like the video game. Ask your wife, she knows me. I worked with her.
So, I'm Chris Engler. I'm actually Lori's husband. But even before she was director, I was, on the finance committee, while Gus was here. And then also for the short term that Scott was here. And, during this last, this last, finance committee or finance meeting that we had to approve the budget. She put out a little document and, it shows, and she passed it around while we were there. And it shows there's a carryover, and I know Jeremy doesn't like the carryover thing, but the carryover, I'm just gonna read the numbers for the last little bit. So starting in 2020, it was $176,000 and 423. 2021, it was 227,687. 22, it was 296,507. 23, it was 336,627. That carryover has been increasing. That means we're doing a good job of getting a budget that actually works, because otherwise that would be dwindling off. And so, I just really wanted to reinforce it, that we're heading in the right direction. But if we do start heading the other direction, then that, as Lori mentioned, that's when we start looking toward bonds and what's the other?
Levy.
Levies, thank you. And I also wanted to point toward, this was the mission statement and the value statement of the original board. When they set that up, so if you need to be reminded, or if anybody wants to look at what the board, what this pool was set up for, that's where that was their mission statement and value statement. That's
Thank
what I
you.
wanted to point out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, director remarks. Anyone have anything left to say?
I do.
All right,
I want to introduce our high school coach, Joe Andrews, high school assistant coach, high school season started yesterday. For the next 14 weeks, they have a small group, but they have a lot of potential there.
Awesome.
Is there any seniors? Okay, we still have a scholarship budget, right? I looked through, I mean, that was all the.
We haven't, well, we did a scholarship for the staff,
Okay,
but we haven't done one in probably 3 or 4 years.
no, I know we haven't done one for 3 or 4 years, it was, I forgot her name, but yeah, we gave out 2 of them 3 or 4 years ago, because 2 of them applied and they were both
Right.
people, so we split up and gave it to both of them. So I'm just wondering if we can, as a board, maybe come up with a, high school senior scholarship for high school swimming.
do you have people that are in need of a scholarship?
These are a couple seniors.
We usually do.
So I'm just saying, as a board, can we think about that and maybe talk about it next month? And so
Absolutely.
that'll be something that the
We will make
coaches
it up.
can present to the seniors and say, hey, here's some requirements, you gotta write a little paper, you might have to show up to a board meeting and present yourself, but it's worth a certain amount of scholarship. And also for your staff, you have seniors lifeguards this year? Any lifeguards that are seniors?
I don't know if they're seniors.
No, the answer is yes.
Who?
Haley.
Oh,
Oh, Doug.
okay, so I just, cause I haven't
Okay.
seen scholarships on our budget for a while, and I know we have done it in the past.
Right.
If we can find a couple $1,000s to put out for scholarships, I would be, if that's something I would like to see out.
Yeah, and I think that we have that, state refund money still that we could talk about taking some of that and move into a scholarship fund, right? The rebate, the boiler rebate,
Oh, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, it's just in the reserve fund.
right, so, but, so we have some money that we could do something with or something like that.
Okay,
We
so we'll
can talk
put that
about
on the
it.
agenda for next
Okay.
month.
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome. Jeremy, you got anything?
Yes, I wanted to express appreciation for the website improvements, which I have not yet seen, unfortunately. And ask if we can also include in our long-term goal to scan the older documents. After Darla's last comment about we do not want to be the district that finds out what happens if we lose the documents, and in fact, there was a fire at that place.
Oh, at the
It
storage
does
place.
make me a little concerned about it. But just some way of backing up those documents, so if our storage unit does burn down, we've got a solution.
Okay, Lori?
Just, I'd like to, Jeremy, can I ask you a question about the fundraiser website doesn't come up. It's not resolving right now.
Oh.
It says
Could
critical
you
error.
check
Can you
it?
click
Yeah.
on-
Okay, I'll check it. Send me an
Okay.
email. I mean,
Cause I've
That's much
got
faster way to
somebody
get
at last ready and able to work on that. We do have, with Jeremy's help, skeleton of a nice start to a fundraising website. Okay, thank you.
All right.
That's it.
Thank
if
you.
that thing goes down, or if you ever want to put anything up on it, or get somebody access to it, just send me an email. We don't have to wait for next board meeting.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. No
All
problem.
right.
And then just real quick, I'm gonna be in Alaska next week.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and so you won't see me for a whole week, and Rose is actually gonna be gone too, mostly of that week. But she's available by phone, I'm of course available by phone, Jim's gonna be around, so anyways. So I've got like extra people like waiting in the wings to help if, if we have problems, but.
All right. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And I
everybody.
want to say thank you to you guys for moving the date off for a day. And at the last minute, I know we thought we weren't doing that last time, so I want to tell you, I appreciate that we did that. And to everyone who came tonight, I want to say thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate them and we hear you and we will absolutely take things you said into consideration. All right, so does someone want to make a motion? All
Close the meeting. Adjourn.
right, all in favor? Aye.
And